Let us start with what we were discussing last week, and so that we can connect our thoughts to today's discussion. We have started off with our effort towards understanding Vedantic philosophy, and as weeks progress, we will move towards Advaita Vedanta specifically. Now, before we get into Vedantic studies, or before we get into the part where I'm studying deeply, we are trying to get into a mode where the system that is provided or few attributes that are requested of the student who is starting to study Vedanta. So that is where that commentary by Adi Shankaracharya comes in. If I want to pursue things that will provide me knowledge of the reality of existence, I need to prepare my mind for it. The reason why I need to prepare my mind for studying deep spiritual truths, or specifically to prepare my mind for Advaita Vedanta or this study, is primarily because mind is too noisy otherwise. It is too restless. It has too many things going on. The idea of preparing the mind is not only that what we are going to study is difficult or complex or different from what we think in day-to-day life, but the idea being, if my mind is too noisy, too distracted, then it is difficult to pursue deeper spiritual truths, and hence I need to calm down. That process is what we are discussing. This is our third week, our last week to discuss the topic of how to prepare our mind. So sadhana chaturasya has four aspects. One is, we had a small discussion on Vivek last year. Second is Vairagya. Third is Shatsampatti. That is what we are going to discuss today. Shatsampatti translates into six inner wealth or six inner treasures. So those are six attributes that we need to have. And we started off with the fourth point, which is a deep inner desire or longing for freedom. That is what we started our discussion with. Inner burning or inner desire for freedom. Vivek, let us focus on Vivek for a minute. We discussed Vivek as when I have an intellectual understanding of a concept combined with my meditative efforts, wherein I bring in intuitive understanding of the concept. When these two combine, along with what I have experimented vis-a-vis that particular aspect of truth in day-to-day life, that translates into Vivek. Intellectual understanding, you have experiential understanding, and you have intuitive understanding of a particular idea or a truth or a concept. When you combine these three, then what you have is wisdom, and that wisdom helps you establish yourself into a particular thought process. You live your philosophy by the framework around which you want to move ahead with your life. So if you have created a framework, then the backbone of that framework should be your discriminative wisdom that comes from these three aspects of understanding. One is intellectual, second is experiential, third one is your intuitive understanding that comes to meditation. So that is one way to look at Vivek. All forms of discriminative wisdom helps us distinguish between what is lasting, what is permanent, and what is temporary. If I have an understanding of any truth and any experience, I can categorize them into two aspects, whether it is for temporary happiness or temporary pleasure, or it is for lasting change and lasting happiness. If that discriminative wisdom comes into my being, then I have truly awakened my Vivek, or that discriminative wisdom that we are talking about. So, discriminative wisdom, the result of that is that I can distinguish between what is temporary and what is lasting, which will in turn mean that I am setting my priorities in the right direction. If a comfort food gives me happiness in the short run, and disciplined eating gives me benefit in the long run, I will be okay to eat in a disciplined manner rather than quickly gratifying myself. From quick gratifications to delayed gratifications, from temporary happiness to lasting happiness, when the shift starts happening on a day to day basis, all your actions you view from the lens of whether this will give you temporary pleasure or lasting happiness, then you are moving towards discriminative wisdom. So, this is in essence what Vivek will look like. Then comes our discussion on Vairagya. Vairagya, we discussed quite a bit last time. A few points here. If I had to summarize the discussion, Vairagya will, from a practical standpoint or from a standpoint of worldly people, those who have not renounced and gone on to become monks and are not living in caves, for us it will be that it is freedom from compulsive dependence on outcomes. So, Vairagya will mean, if I had to summarize for lay people like us, it will be freedom from compulsive dependence on outcomes. Now, this can be looked at from different angles. Yoga, you will see it talks about non dependence on outcomes. If I'm mentally okay with some amount of discomfort, some amount of unease, then I will be moving towards freeing myself from the outcome of comfort. Then, if I get into another idea where I'm not looking at approvals, where I'm not looking at a certain identity which I'm associating myself with, where I'm letting go of my comfort again. So, these are subtle attachments that I have which I can let go of. So, Karma Yoga, very definitely, you can think of you are letting go of outcomes. Subtle attachments, if you let go, that is also Vairagya. And if you are in a position where you can accept some form of discomfort and displeasure, then that also is representation of Vairagya. So these three, this is a way to look at Vairagya. I'm trying to summarize what we had discussed already. These are two mental attributes, qualities that we need to develop if I am trying to get the study of Vedanta, or if I'm trying to understand deeper truths that the world or the universe has to teach us. Also, we have discussed a burning desire for freedom. This is where we discussed four different kind of people. First kind of human beings who are driven by instinct. Second, who are socially responsible human beings. Third, who are questioning who they truly are and where they exist and how to unravel this mystery of life. And fourth, who understand that there is something that binds them to this suffering of this life, death, and rebirth. So they want to free themselves up from this kind of suffering once and for all. And that desire is first and foremost. And they have taken a sankalp that no matter what, I will free myself up from this kind of suffering. And they have that burning desire. And then they start looking for answers. And then they knock at the doorstep to get those answers. So these are 3 points that we have discussed so far. Any questions or comments on what we have discussed? Questions, comments, anything, please. I can't hear you. If anybody is speaking. Can I just do a quick check of the microphone? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
I can. All right. Any comments or thoughts on what we have discussed so far? Okay. Now let us get into today's topic, which is 6 inner wealth. These are mental attributes that we need to work upon. Let us go one by one. So, first one is sama or mental quietude, where you are trying to reduce mental noise that you experience. Do we understand the idea of self talk? Like we keep talking to ourselves in a particular language, and no other activity or thought or spoken or unspoken word dominates how we feel more than the language with which we speak to ourselves. So, this continuous noise that we produce in our own heads, which direction it is taking, or what kind of language, what kind of thought process, what kind of things that we are constantly thinking determines how calm or how restless we are in the mind. Also, if we expose ourselves to continuous stimulants through food, emotional excitement, stimulants through media consumption, anything. So, any kind of stimulant that I am getting engaged in over a period of time, regularly, that makes my mind restless. First inner wealth is to have a quiet mind, which can be achieved by meditation and by exposing myself to less and less stimulants. This is the first quality we are seeking. This quietness of mind, this particular idea is something that, like, how it is challenged in modern day world is that if you are quiet, then as if you are not engaging with the world, or if you are quiet, or if you are looking things from a distance and not getting hyper or excitable with every little input that you receive, then as if you are not engaging enough with what is happening in the world is being designed more and more for reactions and for constant excitement. This constant excitement has a cost on mental health, on brain health. If I want to pursue something deep, I cannot do. This has a direct impact on my attention span. This has a direct impact on if I'm talking to someone, whether that human being is interesting enough for me or not. Mental excitement has a cost. Brain wise, mental excitement has a cost. We must understand how mental quietness makes us steady, makes us stable as human beings. Inputs and thoughts, please.
Sir, is it possible for common people like us to quiet our mind internally without thought for a
Yes.
moment, for 1 or 2 seconds, for 5 seconds?
Yes, right. That when we meditate, we make a conscious effort to quieten our mind. But then world throws at us different things at all points of time. Calmness or mental non-reactivity or mental quietness is a choice that people, I can choose to be reactive, or I can choose to hold back and slow down how I react. I can think before I react, or be an excitable person. So this choice of my expression is entirely mine. When I do not exercise any control over how I respond internally or externally to an input I am being provided, this unabated response becomes my habit. Then I am responding without any awareness, and I keep responding to things. The world is designed in a way that I will keep getting inputs continuously. To break this habit, you have this practice of meditation where you are consciously exercising your muscle of non reactivity. You want to pause and observe. This you have to translate into real life calmness. This is what we need to learn. All of us try to meditate and learn how we are practicing and how we are going deep into meditation, or how we are quietening ourselves during meditation. That is like going to a yoga class to build muscle and build flexibility. The real life challenge is to utilize the flexibility and muscle that you have built into functional fitness. Like, you can do everything in your house. When you have to run, you can run. When you have to carry a load, you can do that. So your physical strength, flexibility should translate into real world flexibility, and strength. Similarly, your meditative efforts should translate into real world calmness and real world control. This is where choice comes in. I'm habituated to response. I need to break that cycle. To break that cycle, I have meditation. But post meditation, how you behave is an exercise in itself. That is where you have to bring in mindfulness. That is where you have to bring in awareness. That is where you have to actually make a commitment that more than anything else, I value my mental tranquility. When we put a premium to our mental tranquility, then I will not want to trade my mental tranquility for petty reactiveness. So, this is something that you build over a period of time, but it can be built. You have to learn how to be non reactive and more calm in day to day life. Essentially, it's a choice and a quality that can be developed.
Yes, I completely agree with you. This is a choice because I feel that people has a tendency to get scared of these things. Maybe I am not, if I do practice meditation or these kind of things,
Yeah.
or I may be not in the very part of the society, or the family look me in
Yes.
a different way. This kind
Yes.
of fear is in the people. They think they, maybe I am a like ascetic person, this kind of
This kind of thoughts can
fear.
also, yes, being non reactive, being calm is now, uh, i- you will be an outlier if you are trying not to be excited. Generally, people want to be excited. They find quietness a little boring. They find it intimidating also. Because the moment you are a little quiet, you have to face your own thoughts. The moment you have to face your own thoughts, this has happened to me. When you observe your own thoughts, you cannot blame others for your own faults or the kind of person you have become or the kind of situation you are in. Facing your own thoughts is a very humbling experience. Those who are quiet have a greater opportunity to observe their own thoughts. The moment you get into observing your own thoughts, you are naturally pushed to be responsible for your own state of mind, your emotional state. The moment you get out of that reactiveness, you do not blame others. The upside of this is you feel you are more in control. The downside is that you are more in control. Once you are in control, you cannot blame others. You are responsible for how you feel, what you are, what you have become, and you have to live with that. People at a deeper level do not want to take responsibility for what they have become. Because they do not take responsibility, they cannot change. They keep blaming people, situations, circumstances, or where they have been placed in life. And once you do that, then the onus for improvement is not on you, but on external circumstances. So people are scared of being quiet. If we are trying to be quiet, if we are trying to be observant, if we are trying to look at our own thoughts or be with our own thoughts, we become more responsible for our own state emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. Then I say that I am responsible and I know I have the capacity to improve. So this is how it translates.
Yes, sir.
Did I make sense?
Yes, sir. Actually,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm completely agree with you.
Yeah. Any other input on quietness or mental quietness? Now, let us just focus on stimulants a little bit. To quieten the mind, we need to have an exercise like a pranayam or a meditation in our daily life. We also need fewer stimulants. Other than phone, can you identify what all stimulants do we have in life? Any other stimulant that you could think of? TV ads, any kind of screen that you have, but if you remove that, or if you say you do not have phone with you for 3 days, what other things can stimulate you? What other things other than your phone or a TV screen can stimulate you? People also, but people are unavoidable. They are, and how they behave is not exactly under my control. Food is a very big stimulant. What we eat disturbs our mind or quietens our mind. You can experiment for 7 days or 10 days that when you eat something, look at how it affects your mood and emotional state. There are things that will make you numb. Inputs through all your five senses can stimulate you. Taste is something that is in our control. The moment we are unmindful of what we are eating, that's a short way to get into creating an environment to stimulate yourself through food. And food is something that we engage constantly with. We cannot control the people we meet. We cannot control external environment, how hot or cold it is. There will be sensations through the skin that can stimulate the mind. We cannot control what goes to the nose because we are living in an environment and a lot of things can come through the nose. If I'm staying close to a dhaba, what I'm smelling is very disturbing for the mind. If I could go closer to nature, what I will smell will be very relaxing for the mind. But in city, we have very little control over it. What we see visually, screens are very obvious. We have discussed the impact of screen. Food as a stimulant, food has an impact on our emotions, how we feel, how we think, how we move. Study food, what you are eating and its impact. Make a diary, make a note, see how food is impacting you. That knowledge that will help you evolve as a human being. Impact of food on our psyche is enormous. Experiment with it, then you will understand why food is categorized as sattvic and tamasic. Till you experiment and see what it does to you, they will be just words. Experiment. Design a sat meal consecutively for 2, 3, 4 times. See how you feel. Get into an experimentation with your daily food. And then, if you get an opportunity or if you're forced to eat food in some social environment, see what it does to your mind. That will become an exercise in awareness. Okay. So that is your mental quietude. Awareness or consciously engaging with sensory perceptions quietens the mind. That is another way to understand that. Pranayam helps you reverse your excitement, reverses the energy flow. So that also quietens the mind. So there are many ways you can reverse the outward flow of energy and quieten your mind. Then is sense discipline. Sense discipline is very closely related to mental quietness. Mental quietness is the result sometimes of sensory discipline through senses. So establish some kind of discipline of food, what you eat, how you speak, and what you think. Everything has to have moderation. That's where the language comes into play. My choice of words when I engage with people and when I'm talking to myself, these need to be moderated. Modern day language is in extremes, like everything is catastrophic, everything is, every other headline that you read will make you feel that something terrible has happened, more troubling than the actual news. That's how the headlines are being created. Language that uses extreme words that excites the mind. If I'm using a language which is quite negative or full of pride, that also excites the mind. Sensory discipline in my eating habits, in the way I speak, and in the way I engage with people, everything needs to be done with awareness and moderation. Now, Why do you need sensory discipline? If you are entertaining your senses constantly, then your mind space is not free to engage with deeper truths that you want to explore. Any engagement of the sense takes your energy outwards towards the world. Any exploration of truth will take your energy inwards. So it's the flow of energy that you want to align. Your behavior should be such that you're creating a conducive environment for yourself to pursue higher truths. To do that, you need to have sensory discipline. Sleeping too much, sleeping too little, again, overindulgence through your senses. Any sensory pleasure, moderation and balance is what is required. Now, see, sensory perceptions or senses as stimulants. I go back to my experience in Banaras. When you are on the boat and spend a couple of days in Banaras, what happens? All your five senses are engaged continuously. So you have this smell of flowers and arti throughout. So your nose is constantly engaged. You are close to a water body. If you are out in the open, the air that comes via the Ganges feels different on the skin. Your eyes see water, people, and colors throughout. Your ears are constantly engaged with the sound of bell or some kind of arti that is happening. So that is total absorption of your being. Generally, when people come out of Banaras, they have experienced something they have never experienced before. The immersion of all five senses together, that 3 4 days that we spend in Banaras, their five senses are immersed in a way they had never experienced before. And everyone who goes to Banaras comes back overwhelmed in a very satisfying way, not in a restless way. Senses, if used properly or if exposed to right kind of things, can help you become more aware of yourself. So this is where mindfulness comes into play, that what is your sense being exposed to, you should be mindful of. Senses, sensory perceptions are the first layer of information that gets passed on to your internal system. A person who is aware of the sensory perceptions that are coming in is more prepared from within to observe the kind of response that is about to come out. If you are not aware of the input, then it is very difficult to be aware of the output or the reason of the output. So, awareness of incoming perceptions leads you to become more aware of your responses. This is an exercise in self awareness and self study hinged around sensory perceptions. When we go to Vipassana, the first training is becoming aware of your own senses, sensory perceptions, awareness, being mindful of all five senses is your first training. And they break it down one sensory perception at a time and then all five senses at a go. That's your training for first few days when you are into, before even you reach your breath perceptions or you are observing your thoughts later, etc. So that training is there. So senses are a window into self knowledge if I choose it to be, or it can be a window to restlessness where I'm completely helpless and bound by my senses alone. Any comments, any thoughts on this? Please share. So you have sam, dam, sama, dama, mental quietness, sensory discipline. Third one is uparati. Uparati is your desire to avoid all kind of drama, which means not everything requires engagement. Uparati again leads you back to mental quietness. So these three are actually related. Your desire to withdraw from reactivity will lead you to mental quietness. Once they say mental quietness, That's the umbrella under which sensory discipline comes in, and then comes uparati, where you are trying to withdraw from the senses and withdrawing from reactivity. In a world where everything is about engagement, we can become people who are ready to observe. Observation requires a different kind of engagement. Engagement for reactivity and engagement for observation are two different states of being. If you are engaged with the world with a desire to observe, learn, and then respond, that's a state which promotes self awareness. If you are involved with the world in a way where you are ready to respond or react without learning anything about the input being provided, then you are constantly engaging. That's a very poor state to be in. Any questions, comments, remarks on this? Please share. Then comes titiksha, steadiness of the mind in the face of opposites. Titiksha will mean that whether you have profit or loss, you try to maintain a steady state. Somebody appreciated you or insulted you, you will have a steady state of mind. In extreme heat, you will have steady state of mind. In extreme cold, you will have steady state of mind. When you are too tired, then also steady state of mind. When you are bursting with energy, then also steady state of mind. So steady state of mind as your default mode, no matter what you are experiencing, is essentially an act of forbearance where you are established in observing and non-reactivity, because you understand that whatever you are experiencing, either positive or negative, really does not matter in the long run. So this is where your discriminative wisdom comes into play. If somebody praises you for what you have done, you understand that this will not last. Either the appreciation will not last, or the quality that you have displayed may be transient. There is nothing to be proud of, because what they are appreciating is an image. So the idea is that you practice mental steadiness in the face of opposing realities, because you have discriminative wisdom. Neither profit nor loss nor appreciation nor insult, nothing lasts forever. So you have this discriminative wisdom which comes out as steadiness of in the face of opposing truths. Do you think it is easy to do that?
No, sir.
Do you think it has any utility? The whole idea that we will not react or not engage, do you, in a reactive way, do you find this idea appealing? Anyone?
Sir, with practice, it can be possible if we aware of our thoughts mainly.
Yes. So, what is the benefit other than me preparing my mind for Vedantic studies? What is the practical benefit of a mind which is quiet, non reactive, especially this kind of mind which is steady in the face of opposing forces?
If I can control my mind, then I can control my life too.
Yes, you can, absolutely.
And
Um,
I can emotionally free existence.
yes, absolutely.
It's an emotional struggle,
Yes,
but I feel consumes human life. Maybe they are successful, maybe they are very educated, but even though they are emotionally struggle
100%.
and they messed up their life.
Absolutely.
If
Emotion,
I control my mind, observing less reactive, so in this way I can control my emotion too, life will be easier to handle.
absolutely. You achieve emotional freedom from being non reactive. We are not subservient to our emotions. Then I can choose to emote and decide to what degree. We are not run over by emotions. I am less emotional with my life. That directly leads to better decision making. This is what Abir has messaged in the group. This kind of non reactivity helps us take better decisions. You're not led by emotions. You use emotions as a tool. Now, does that make us more mechanical as human beings? Does that make us more mechanical as human beings, more robotics?
I don't think so. Those who can do that, for initially people can feel that
Yeah.
it is mechanical. Always I am observing my thought, and every time I am non-reactive. Gradually, it happens naturally.
Now, see what happens. Let us look at what a robotic life is. Robotic life is where you do not have any control over what you are doing. You are set in a pattern. A robotic or a mechanical life means you are repeating things you are habituated with. People who are non observant are subservient to their habits. People who are observant, they are trying to break away from their habits. So, habitual patterns of thinking are broken if you are truly observant of your own thoughts. Instead of becoming mechanical, I am actually becoming a person who is truly engaged with what is happening around me. Mechanical life lacks creativity, but observant life has that creativity of response, of engagement. So, Abhi brings that point of creativity, which is absolutely right. That if you are observant, for an outer world which is always jumping with restlessness, you may feel a little aloof or mechanical, but in reality, you are beyond your habits. Once you break any pattern, you are more creative, you are more engaged, you are more responsible, you can solve more problems, you can see solutions to things that other people cannot, you can put things into better perspective. This is what a life of observation has to offer. Is a mix of respect and trust. So respect to the teachings that you are studying, you are engaging, you are receiving, and trust that these teachings will actually help you evolve into a better human being and find the answers you are looking for. So you are in a way respecting plus trusting the methods and the tools that you have for evolution. This is different from blind faith. This is more like an informed confidence. So, Shraddha is respect and trust on the method and the process that you are investing time and energy into. If you are someone who is doubtful or who is continuously cynical of things that you are learning, then then you will not be able to learn much, and you will also be devoid of humility because you're constantly doubting your methods and cynical of the processes that you're undertaking. This will not take you far. If you have respect and trust, then you will listen, read, understand, experiment, and then build that trust. So you will have respect, you will form your trust based on experimentation and good intellectual exercise. After that, trust will come. It is different from blind faith. It is more like informed confidence that you build. Respect, because without respect, you cannot learn. Respect is you have to be humble enough to receive. That's the initial stage. But once you have started receiving, you cannot just blindly agree to what you are studying or reading. You have to experiment with it, see whether it has any meaning in your life, then accept or discard. So, any form of study which is study of higher truth or truth that will help you unravel the mysteries of universe, there is a very fine line between blind faith and trust or shraddha. Shraddha will be respect and trust combined. Blind faith will not take you too far. Shraddha is a quality that we need to develop. Respect, trust. Why you need to develop trust or how you develop trust is very important. You have experimented and intellectually struggled with an idea. If you have not intellectually struggled with an idea, you have not had an opportunity to learn about that idea enough. Intellectual struggle with a particular idea is not doubting an idea, but trying to bring in more clarity. So there is a difference between intellectual struggle, genuine struggle, or cynicism. So doubt for the sake of doubt is different. You cannot do anything, but you have to respect, learn, and then you can move ahead with that. So that's your fifth point in six inner wells that we are talking about. Last one that we have is one pointedness. One pointedness plays out differently. I'll quickly summarize this. One pointedness while you are meditating means something. One pointedness while you have decided a way of life means something. One pointedness is the kind of concentration that you have taken, you have decided that you will look for freedom, and then you're looking for freedom and you get distracted, you forget all about it. The moment you realize, you go back on track. That is what you call one pointedness. The moment you start working on something, you focus, it is natural for us to lose focus. The moment you realize you have lost focus, you go back to it. Focus, loss of focus, back to focus. This is what one pointedness looks like. It is not that you decided that you will look for freedom today, and from now on till the end of your life, you will have no other thought. No, you will work towards your freedom. You will continuously question it, try to find out methods, ways, teachers, books, studies, whatever gives you an answer, you will try for that. However, there will be periods in your life where you will not prioritize freedom. That is part of learning. But the moment you realize that you have lost out on your initial focus, you will go back to it. So that is what one pointedness looks like in real life. In meditation, when you have sat down to concentrate, you concentrate for a while deeply. It is very natural for us to lose focus while meditating. The point of success comes how quickly I understand I have lost focus. So, if in a 15-minute meditation, I have lost focus 6 times and I have realized it 6 times, then I have 6 points of success. If I started to meditate and then I didn't realize that my mind has lost focus, and only after 15-20 minutes I realize that I have lost focus and my time to meditate is up, then I have lost out on that 15 minutes. If there is no struggle of focus, loss of focus, and back to focus, this effort needs to be there. If this struggle is not there in meditation, if this struggle is not there with larger goals of my life, then most likely we are losing time. We are not able to stay one pointed. You have that one pointed focus only if there is struggle with that. If there is no struggle with your one pointedness, then probably you have not been one pointed. So these are 6 qualities that we need to focus and develop if we want to truly explore Vedantic philosophy. So these are the whole set of attributes that you require if you want to prepare your mind for Vedantic philosophy. So you realize how highly Shankaracharya is placing Vedantic philosophy, that you need to work on these constantly to be eligible for that study. Any closing thoughts, anyone? Thank you everyone for joining in today. I'm very happy. This is probably our last spiritual study session of 2025. It was a tremendous year for me to share these thoughts continuously since April. We'll meet on Monday for Wellness Wisdom one last time. Then we will meet next year for spiritual studies. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.